Yo YouTube, this is Chad here coming to you from Honeycomb Fingerboards, coming at you guys with a little tutorial today. So I get a lot of people asking me how to dye veneer and how I get dyed veneer. Some of it I just buy by just looking on eBay, but you can also, if you prefer, to get colors that nobody else can make, you can buy your own concentrated dye here. I'll show you guys right here. It's called Tint. I'll put the link down in the description so you guys know where to buy it from. Not exactly sure how much it is off the top of my head. I bought this stuff a long time ago. But you're supposed to just mix it, it's really concentrated, so you dilute it in water. I think people have also used alcohol. I just used water. But it's, I think, a fluid ounce per liter. So I have here a tablespoon per 2 cups. So as you can see, we have some nice blue here. And then I also got lemon yellow. And then I mixed the two together and made 2 different shades of green. One a little bit darker, one a bit lighter. So yeah, I'm just going to show you guys how you can dye some veneer. So once you get the dye diluted down into the water and you get your veneer cut up, I definitely recommend getting some gloves on because this shit is serious. I was mixing it up. I'm sure you guys will run into the same problem, but whenever you're mixing it up into water, literally your finger is going to be that color for the next couple of days. So now that we have everything mixed up, got your gloves on, what you want to do is get a timer. For these I was doing probably about a minute and a half or 2 minutes per dip. Do a couple coats for each color, but the longer you put it in there the better. 5 to 10 minutes is probably good. And since we're diluting it with water, it's not such a big deal since we're using it more as a dye, not as a finisher. So the wood's going to get a little bit warped, but as long as you dry it out properly before putting it in your press, you should be good to go. So let's get started. I'm going to probably grab some of this bird's eye veneer. It always turns out pretty cool looking whenever you get everything dyed up. Really makes those eyes pop out. So yeah, we're just going to throw that in the blue. And then I'm going to start my timer, we'll say 5 minutes. Start. You also want to make sure this stuff is shaken up well, while you're letting it soak. Get that pigment kind of evenly distributed inside that water so that it soaks up really nicely into that veneer. We got that mixed up, and we'll just let it sit. Halfway there. So let this soak for a little longer. The longer you let it soak, the more the dye is going to penetrate into that wood. Since we're dealing with pretty thin veneer, it doesn't take long for it to penetrate all the way through. I've had some dye before where it didn't dye all the way through. I'm hoping that this isn't going to happen with this stuff, but we'll see. I'll make a couple decks and sand it through and see if the dye penetrates all the way through the ply, because that always looks bad whenever you're sanding it and the dye showing up on the bottom but not the sides. It just doesn't look the same. And if that happens, then we'll just bump up this time from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, a couple hours, and whatever we have to do. But I think that 5 minutes should do pretty well. I've seen some people on Instagram talking about them leaving plies in the dye for a couple weeks and stuff like that. I don't know how necessary that is. If you're dealing with thick plywood and stuff where it takes a long time for that dye to penetrate all the way through the wood, I can understand that, but we're dealing with literally 1/42 of an inch thickness, it's paper thin, I can run it through my printer. So shouldn't be too difficult for that dye to penetrate all the way through. Got about 40 seconds left on this. It's looking pretty good. Alright, so there we go. There's 5 minutes. So get yourself out some sort of paper towel or whatever, just to soak up the remaining dye whenever you pull this out of the jar. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that's looking nice and rich in color. Top that off a little bit. And dry it off. There we go. Got a nice blue ply here. That's what we started off with. Looking good. So, like I said, leave that out to dry completely before throwing it in the press. You don't want any, like, excess moisture to be still in that wood, because then it's going to lead to warping the deck after you pull it out of the press. So make sure that these dry sufficiently. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think next one I'm going to show you guys how to do is some dye fades as well. A lot of people ask me about dye fades. So what I have here is two little cups, and I have wood that is cut to about 4.5 inches long. So what I'm going to do is fill these up about 1/3 of the length of this. So I'm thinking about like 1.5 inches height. So grab some of this blue or whatever color you're going to be using, and again, make sure it's stirred up well before you pour it into something else, because you want to get that pigment evenly distributed inside that water. Pour it on now. This shit is serious. Make sure you don't wear Sunday's best clothes whenever doing this too, because you will for sure ruin them. This dye is crazy concentrated. Like I said, I got it on my hands and it took a couple of days for it just to come off. So I have about 1.5 inches of the blue, and grab some of this lemon yellow. Stir that up pretty nicely. Pour another 1.5 inches. A little bit sloppier that time. Not a bartender. There we go. So to the side. There we go. Another 1.5 inches. So, what you want to do for dye fades, like I said, we're only going to pour up about 1/3 of this, because what's going to happen is you're going to stick this in here, and a capillary effect is going to happen where it's going to draw up the dye. Since we have the grain going in a vertical pattern, it's not really going to happen if you do a horizontal as much. But with the vertical pattern, it's going to draw the dye up through the grain. So, even though it's only about 1/3, the way in to the dye, it's still going to soak up about halfway. So, stick that in there, and we wait. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to stick some of this in the other color. I'll kind of show you guys what's happening with my camera here. So as you can see, I haven't done anything. All I did was just drop it in the dye, and that dye is just crawling up the ply. Didn't do anything but just drop it in the dye. Didn't stir it around or anything. So yeah, just let these sit for a couple minutes, probably best to leave it in there for longer with these dye fades because we really want it to, you know, crawl up that ply as much as possible. So yeah, we'll probably come back in about 10 minutes or so. Show you guys what these look like after that. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes and I'm noticing that these things are already crawling up to about the height that we want them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them out now before they dye the whole ply. So, as you can see, I didn't do anything with these plies. They've been just sitting in this cup. Didn't stir it around at all. And as you can see, it's already, I'll try to get a little bit closer. But as you can see, it's crawled up, well past the halfway mark. So, I'm going to go ahead and just dry these off. And set them aside, and then we'll just swap them around. Put the yellow one that we had in here, flip it over and dunk it into the blue. Get the blue one out, flip it over and dunk it into the yellow. Looking pretty good. This one crawled up a little bit more than I was wanting. Just for future reference, I should probably pull these out a little bit sooner. Good. Halfway dyed, more than halfway dyed. It's pretty crazy how much that dye will actually creep up that plot. Science. So yeah, these things are dried up, fairly well. So now what I'm gonna do, like I said, get the blue one, flip it over, dunk it into the yellow. Get the yellow one, flip it over, dunk it into the blue. And we'll just let these sit for another 5 minutes or so, or as long as it takes for it to creep up, as much as we want. So yeah, come back to you guys after that's done. So there we go. Dye is mixing in together, making that green in the middle. It's gonna give us that really nice dye fade look. So yeah. Leave these in here for about, 3 minutes probably. Don't want it to crawl up too high. And these things will be mint. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out that's been in the blue. It's kind of rising up pretty fast. And I was just kind of thinking, as I was watching these soak up and, it looks so fucking sick. But as I was watching these kind of soak up and rise up through the ply, it was making me think that, 5 minutes soaking in this dye is probably good. It's going to be penetrating all the way through the ply. You can literally stick it in here, watch it rise up the entire ply over 10 minutes if you wanted to. But, yeah, so this dye is probably going to be penetrating the wood pretty well. So I'll pull this out, looking pretty good, and trying to fuck up this shit. There we go, guys. Nice blue, green to lemon yellow dye fade. It's gonna come out as a fucking sick deck. So, I'm going to set this guy off to the side, let it dry properly, and I'll probably go ahead and take this other one out of the dye as well. It's probably best to go lighter color first and then into the darker color. Kind of watching this one, it doesn't look as good as the other one, so if you guys are using two different colors to do some dye fades, it's probably best to start with the lighter color first, let that go all the way through, dry it off, flip it over, and then stick it into the darker color. It doesn't look too bad, actually. God, I love dye fades. everyone turns out a little bit different. Oh my god. With the bird's eye, it looks fucking amazing. Look at that. Oh man. Beautiful. Another nice deck to be. So, let that one sit off to the side, let it dry, and yeah, that's pretty much all it is to it, guys. To dye your own veneer for your own decks. Like I said, I'll put the link to where you can buy the dye from in the description. And yeah, I mean, they sell a bunch of different colors, pretty much all the primary colors, and then you can just mix, you know, secondary colors if you want. They also sell like actual like stains for wood if you want to do that. I mean, you can get like a cherry color and dye some veneer cherry if you don't want to go out and buy cherry veneer. But yeah, like I said, check it out, guys. You know, like I said, that's pretty much all it is to it, and pretty easy to do, not too hard to make some really nice looking plies, you know, especially with the exotic veneer, which doesn't necessarily come in different colors. You know, you definitely have to usually dye those yourself. So you can turn this ordinary bird's eye into some really nice looking wood. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for the tutorial, guys. Hope it helped out, and yeah, hopefully the questions stop, you know, people stop asking me how to get dyed veneer and stuff like that. It's really simple. So yeah, pretty much gonna be it for today though. Make sure you guys like, comment, rate, subscribe, and yeah, until next time, later y'all. As close to that little marking as possible. And then I'll go back on the belt sander, which usually gives me a much smoother edge, and just kind of clean up